Good morning and welcome to a very special interview show of The Pro. Today, it's my pleasure to have His Excellency Ambassador Dinesh K. Patnaik sir on our show. Ambassador Patnaik is a senior Indian diplomat who is currently the Indian ambassador to Spain, and he is here with us to discuss India-Spain relations and the way forward. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out the time, and a very warm welcome to The Pro.
Thank you, Ritwik. Nice to be here.
Thank you, sir. So, sir, I would like to begin the discussion by asking that India established former diplomatic links with Spain back in 1956. So how has been the diplomatic relations of both the countries till date?
The diplomatic relations are very good. In fact, it's one of the many relations we have which do not have any controversies in them. There are no problems that are there. But that does not mean anything, because with many countries we do not have controversies, but we do not have a great relationship. But with Spain, it's a very long and a good relationship. We have a relationship in all fields, whether we are looking at politically close, economically, culturally, there is science and technology. There's a whole lot of things that are going on together between the two countries. Also, Spain being an integral part of the European Union, and our relationship with the European Union growing up, our relations with Spain are also getting closer. But on its own, it stands as one of our very good relationship with any country in the world.
Okay, sir. So what are some of the major sectors in which India and Spain have bilateral partnerships, and how successful these partnerships have been in terms of economic development of both the countries?
See, bilateral partnerships, we have a large number of them. If you really look at it, it's in every field. You name anything, whether it is political, multilateral, which is in the UN, in the G20, in various other fora. Economically, if you look at it, the trade is very good right now. Despite all the COVID pandemic and everything, our bilateral trade has come back to the pre-COVID levels. Investments are very high. There are investments from Spain to India and from India to Spain. So if you look at it, any field, culturally, we are vibrant. The Indian culture is extremely receptive in Spain, and flamenco and other things are becoming more popular in India. Language-wise, Spain is today the fastest growing foreign language in India. The Cervantes Institute of Spain, its biggest center anywhere in the world, is today in India. So you're looking at a whole gamut of bilateral relationships. So any sector you look at, and if you look at it, specific sectors, whether it is chemicals, whether it is IT, whether it is defense, any other sector that you look at, we have a very good relationship.
Okay, so you mentioned about the cultural relationship, and culture exchange has been a very important component of India-Spain bilateral relations. So how do you see this going, and what efforts have been taken by the Indian government to promote the cultural exchanges between both the countries?
You see, culture, there are two ways to look at it. The first is culture as a social and interactive thing, and that has been happening for a long time. There is a large interest in Indian culture here. Even during the pandemic, we had some of the finest cultural shows here in Spain, which speaks highly about how much the Spanish love Indian culture. Similarly, there have been a large amount of shows in India from Spain. So culturally, where interaction is concerned, there is a lot happening. And when you look at culture, it's not just dance music, it's also films, it's yoga, it's meditation, it's a whole range of cultural activities which take place here. But it is time now, and both countries have agreed to look at culture also as an economic field, not just as a social interactive field. Because culture as economy has a lot of things to offer. And we are looking at it, and especially in the audiovisual industry. There is a lot of cooperation which is planned in the audiovisual industry. Right now, while we are talking, there's an Hindi movie, Pathaan, being shot in Mallorca and then in Cadiz. There are many more filmmakers from India who are coming in the next few months to come and shoot here. Similarly, there is a lot of filmmakers from Spain who are going to India. There is a Spanish company which is just planning to go to Ladakh to shoot a movie. There is a Spanish company going to Rajasthan to shoot a movie. So movie shooting is not just locations. It's also got to do with the pre-production, post-production. How do you do CGI? How do you do animation? There's this whole infrastructure of culture, which is economically in nature, which we need to put between both countries now.
Okay, so glad to know. Spain is India's 8th largest trade partner in Europe. So how the trade relations between the countries have been so far, and how it has flourished over the years, and what are some of the major products that India export to Spain and vice versa?
If you look at the bilateral economic relations, the trade relations, that trade has gone back to, like I said, pre-COVID levels. We had reached a high of about 6 billion in 2019. And in 2021, despite the pandemic, we have crossed it. We are now 6.73 billion in 2021. And 2022 is increasing much more. Now with, of course, the COVID crisis and now the issue that is happening in the eastern part of Europe, we anticipate that there will be some problems in bilateral trade, but the trade is strong. And the trade is in all fields, whether you look at it as machine parts, as agriculture, as chemicals, specialty chemicals, iron ore, fuel, you name it, anything. There is a large amount of trade happening in all of this. But trade does not show the exact composition of a bilateral economic relationship. What shows the bilateral economic relations is the amount of investment and the amount of companies who are interacting with each other. There are more than 250 Spanish companies working in India. There are almost 100 Indian companies working here in Spain. There is bilateral investment of a very high nature. So these things all add up together. It's not just the trade, but the whole investment, bilateral trade, economic interaction, presence of companies in each other's places. All these put together make a relationship vibrant.
Yeah. So what are some of the major products like that India export to Spain and vice versa? If you can please.
Like I told you, the major products are specialty chemicals, fuels, agro products, equipment, machine tools, you name it. I mean, the entire gamut, everything we are doing.
Yeah,
so there is no single product that stands out as. It is not like our trade with many countries, which is uni-product. So we either get oil or diamonds or something. This is a multi-product relationship where every product is being saleable. Whether it's garments, in the textiles is a very big part of our relationship. So there is many things that we are looking.
So when I posted on my social media handles yesterday that I'm going to interview the Indian ambassador to Spain, so a majority of students asked me to put this question in front of you. So how is Spain as a country for students who aspire to pursue their higher education abroad, especially Indian students?
Yes. If you look at students, I have two things to tell them. One is Spain has very good institutes of higher education, one of the best in the world. In fact, the IE, ESADE, the engineering institutes, the management institutes, the medical colleges are very good. But more than that, Spanish is the language of the future, because if you look at it today, there are almost 500 million people plus who speak Spanish around the world. And Spanish, the US itself is becoming Spanish speaking. There are more Spanish speakers in US today than any other language coming together. So what I'm saying is, for Indians, if they want to have a position in the world, want to travel around, want to really have work mobility, learning the Spanish language and learning in Spanish-speaking areas gives them a head start over others. Spain also, the education is much more reasonable priced than many other countries of the West. So I would suggest Indian students to not only come here at the education level, which is bachelor's, master's, PhD, MBA, engineering institutes, but also at the school level, because there is a lot of things we can do, because learning Spanish from a young age, seeing a world which is like ours, but same vibrant culture as India, but in a different fashion. Also learning football, that's one of the few things which Spain is famous about. So there is a lot of things students can do. And this is a place which also welcomes you. Unlike many other countries I won't name, Spain is a very welcoming country. And for Indian students, they'll be much more comfortable here than anywhere else I can think of.
Yeah, sir, can you please give a graph that approx how many Indian students are currently pursuing their higher education in Spain?
We really don't have an idea, but approximately 2,000 plus.
Oh,
that would be the figure.
Yeah, good number, sir. So how has been the bilateral partnership of India and Spain been in the field of science, technology, and research and development? And what is the way forward for both the countries?
See, these are areas on which the Prime Minister is putting a lot of focus, and we are very keen on doing a lot of things. We have a very vibrant science and technology exchange. The Science and Technology Ministry in India and the CDTI and the Science Ministry here have a strong cooperation which has been going on for the last 20 years. What they do is they look at specific topics and they fund research in these topics. So we have gone from renewables to infrastructure to health to every other field that we can do where the science is to be developed. where researchers in both countries are called every year to submit research proposals, and research is done on various items. So science and technology is a very important area. But more than science and technology, what we are looking at is the linkage between science and technology and industry. Because in the end, whatever research is done has to have some effect in having a product coming out in industry or having some usefulness to society. Research for research sake is something we are doing all the time, but to have research linked to industry is something we are working on now.
So coming to the COVID-19 pandemic, so how both the countries managed, to get out of it, and was there any kind of partnerships in the COVID period?
See, Spain was one of the first countries who suffered a lot in the first wave. We suffered a lot in the second wave. In the first wave, when Spain suffered, they needed a lot of medicines like hydrochloroquine. They needed help in many other things, in which we came out and actually provided a lot of medicines and others, because we were very well positioned during the first wave, whereas Spain suffered. When we suffered in the second wave, Spain also extended its help and came forward to help us. So there is a cooperation which is taking place. We are now looking at joint collaboration in third countries. Essentially, India as a developing country has a lot of assets. We are one of the few developing countries with so much assets in the vaccine industry. We produce our own vaccines. We've already vaccinated more than 1.75 billion people in India. We do billions of tests. So we have a huge ecosystem in India, which is capable of producing vaccines at the cheapest price in the world. And Spain today has a very vibrant aid program in which they provide medicines to many Latin American countries, African countries, and others, which we also do. So we are looking at seeing how we can collaborate together in third countries to work on this field. And then, of course, research, like I told you, science and technology. There is research going on different aspects of COVID. There is interaction between our researchers, doctors, scientists, etc. But this is happening all the time. So it's not something special that we're doing extra.
Okay, sir. So I would like to conclude by asking, where do you see India's relations with Spain in the coming few years, and what are some of the possible challenges that may arrive while taking the relations forward?
See, relations is all positive. I do not see any negatives in the relationship. When you look at the relationship in every field, it is growing. The only, it's not a block. The only problem that I could see was the lack of knowledge on both sides about each other's countries. Spain, for a large time, has been focusing on Latin America, on the Western hemisphere of the world. And India has been focusing a lot on its neighborhood, into the extended neighborhood on the eastern part of it. We both collaborate in the European Union, but we both need to look at each other now. India is looking at a lot at Latin America and is hoping to collaborate with Spain in reaching out to Latin America. Spain is looking into the Indo-Pacific in a big way, like many other countries, seeing the Indo-Pacific as the growth area of the future. And India, for them, is the landing point in the Indo-Pacific. So these are things we are working together. I see very positive things. But there are issues which can happen. I mean, today the Ukraine crisis, yesterday the COVID crisis, tomorrow if some other crisis comes. These are things which can affect. But on a platform, if you look at it without looking at any of these extraneous factors, Spain-India relations are on an upward path, and I'm sure that we will do much better as time goes by.
Sir, before ending, I just want to put the last question, and this question is very personal to us because the our portal covers a lot of news on defense as well. So how has been the defense partnerships between the countries?
Well, the defense partnership has been good in the past, but now it's becoming very good. The good relationship is that we had a very close relationship on many issues. Yeah. But right now it has become better because of two reasons. One is we've just signed a huge contract to buy 56 transport aircraft for the military from Spain. Yeah. So this 56 aircraft, out of which 40 will be made in India, which means a large ecosystem of the production of these aircrafts would have to move to India, which makes for a greater relationship between both sides. The second is we are discussing many other items, from submarines to missiles to anti-tank weapons to a large amount of defense equipment, which we are looking to procure from Spain. But more than that, there is also defense policy cooperation, which we are looking at, which is between the defense ministries of both sides to see how the policy framework works. Spain is an integral part of NATO. In Indo-Pacific is today emerging as one of the most important areas of the world. how do we look at each other? How do we collaborate? How do we interact? How do we exchange information, learn from best practices, etc.? These are the defense policy initiatives we are doing, apart from just procurement of weapons and discussions on different issues.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. It was a pleasure having you on our show, and I'm sure the relations will keep on flourishing further.
Thank you, Ritwik. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.